Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Analyze! Today, we'll be talking about the new hero Gunnthrá, and of course the upcoming 8% banner as well. Now, I apologize that I've been kinda inactive lately, but the recent power creep took a lot of wind out of my sails and I've got other things to take care of. I'll get more into that later, either later this video or another video. So let's talk about Gunnthrá first. Now, I'm sure most of you have seen in the trailer, one look at Gunnthrá suggests a resistance juggernaut. My guess is that her base res is probably around 32 to 35 plus 3. I think she will also have middling stats everywhere else to keep in line with Feng. Though you also have to consider that ranged units, especially mounted ones, have some of the lowest BST around, so even if they get power creep, they can only go this high. Well, at least I hope that is the case. Intelligence system has been setting precedents after precedents lately, so I won't be surprised either if she ends up with infantry BST. Well, I think she'll end up a power creep Cecilia, except with more points in defense and speed or something. Either way, I'm sure she'll be a unit that'll work with whatever IVs, but if you have questions, feel free to ask me when her stats comes out. Anyway, stats guessing aside, let's take a look at her abilities. First, we have her weapon, Blizzard, which, by the way, did they run out of Norse or something when they decided to name this thing? But anyway, this thing is extremely interesting. A complete opposite to its blade counterpart, you get attack instead based on debuffs on an enemy unit. I suppose that was bound to happen as intelligence systems been pushing debuffs lately, like the stuff you see on healers, or smokes, or ploys, etc. Now, I can see one immediate advantage that this setup has over Blade, and that is that Panic Ploy won't be as effective against this setup, unless your team runs buffs, I guess, and even then it won't cripple you nearly as much as it would with Blades. Especially if you were to say, oh, combo with someone like Saizo, whose Smoke Dagger just so happens to reduce 6 to all stats. That's 24 extra damage, and Saizo is a 3 to 4 star pest that swarms your barracks with the slightest provocation. So, or if you like, you can use Clarisse's bow, which reduces 5 attack and 5 speed in a wide area. Not as ridiculous, but that's something you can use on an archer if dagger isn't your thing. Anyway, on top of the plus 3 res you get, this weapon really defines the character. A horrible monster who uses debuffs to snowball an overwhelming advantage over their enemies. Honestly, this is the type of techniques that villains would use, not this sweet, big boobed lady. But, well, never judge a book by its cover, so they say. Okay, next, let's talk about the rest of her kit. So we have Fortress Res on the A slot. It's actually pretty damn absurd on her. Think about it, I mean, it's not like she really needs the attack if she just uses her horrible tome to do all the talking. Having such a large boost with no other requirements is absolutely devastating on ploy units such as herself. It's a great SI material as well, though I'd never sacrifice her, it's a huge waste. Same goes for her resistance ploy in the C slot. It's a huge waste to lose her over it. Just find some other crap hero that'll no doubt have those skills later and chop them up for it. Now for the B skill, that's a good one. Chilling Seal's ability to -6 attack and speed on the unit with the lowest defense anywhere on the map at the start of each turn will really ruin City Mongolian Linz's day, as she is usually the one with the lowest defense on a horse team. Also cripple the likes of Delthia, Lud, Anus. It isn't an absolutely amazing skill, is what I like to say, but I have a premonition, a prediction, that harsh command will not only be used, but power creeped in the future. They've been seriously pushing debuffs lately. It's only a matter of time that they release an overpowered skill or character with said skill that counter debuffs along with something else. But never mind all that, just harsh command itself is enough to cause your plans to seriously backfire. Now, the skill itself isn't bad, gimmick that it is, because eventually you will lock down a team with debuffs down to the last unit, but you have to be really careful about harsh command. This isn't a skill you can just turn off either, because it activates at the start of a turn and can only be stopped by reducing her to half health or less. It's a more dangerous skill than it looks. Ironically, that same Saizo, who combos extremely well with her, could also be the one to cause her downfall. Most interesting. Other than that, you have your standard loss of B skills, which affects her personal combat prowess. I'm sure that her legendary blessings will probably be something like plus 3 HP and plus 3 res, or maybe plus 4 res since they've been prioritizing defensive stats lately. Now, another known fact is that Gunnthrá is actually the pre-evolution of Gunther. She becomes Gunther when she levels up to level 69. Unlike the rest of the world, in Fire Emblem, as a unit gains more experience, they become weaker, in contrast to the children or trainees who are stronger than fully grown men. It is a very warped system, but at the very least, the elders gain a lot of respect. I mean, if you just make a video about them in Tier 20 Arena, you're bound to get millions of views. Proven fact. This amazing trait is also shared with Matilda, who eventually evolves into Jagan, and most importantly, the 3-stage evolution of Riss. And Riss, being the wily bastard that he is, actually becomes even stronger despite the heavy BST loss. So much so that he becomes one of the 6 Paths of Pain Plus due to gaining a ton of resistance for ploys and many new tricks that healers now have, like Savage Pain. So Riss is one of the strongest heroes in the entire game. Never underestimate him. Okay, now let us talk about the new 8% banner. I'm sure all of you have experienced the first one, and I'm sure you all have mixed feelings about it. Me too, honestly. I had days where I get a ton of units, and then I have days where I didn't get all that much at all. But that's the standard of gambling. My real concern is that there are some malicious shenanigans going on behind the 8%. Sure, you have an 8% to get a 5-star with no pity breakers, but what if the real pity breakers, the units that share color with your desired units, actually appear more often out of that 8%? You know, I've wasted a lot of money in this game. I've seen others waste a lot of money in this game. A common trend I find is that a more popular unit that shares a color with someone seems to appear less. This happened to me way back in March when I got a plus 10 Rebecca and only like 4 or 5 Jafars, or that time in spring where I got like 16 or 17 Spring Chroms before finally plus 10ing my Spring Camilla. Or that other time I summoned on the healer banner and Elise didn't get plus 10 until I have like 16 Sakura and other Lachesis and horrifying Maria. Or how about for other people? Well, I didn't summon for Era myself. I saw a Twitter of a dude who got heaps of Eldigan, like 11 or 12, and only got 3 Era. And a Reddit post of someone who also shares the same pain, or like, I saw like 20 something and like maybe 6 or 7. Or how about that Halloween banner when that crazy Japanese pedophile tries to summon for Sakura and got heaps of Jacobs for his trouble? Or hell, my latest example in the previous legendary banner where I got 10 Jennies, 5 or 6 Lin, and only 2 Bridal Cordelia. But, alright, tinfoil conspiracy aside, you're still looking at a shared percentage between 3 units, and as such, I highly recommend only going ham on this if you have at least 2 or 3 units in the banner that you want. Okay, so let's talk about the heroes themselves to help you with this. So on the red team, we have Sigurd, Brave Roy, and Ryoma. Now, this is probably the best color to summon in. Now, Sigurd is an extremely tanky unit with 2 unique defensive abilities of his own. He's great for setting up Wings of Mercy and other techniques that take advantage of low HP. On top of this, he has inflated BST that is perfectly aligned for him. I highly recommend the guy. He also comes with close defense and speed smoke, so he's extremely good for skill inheritance as well. Then, you have Brave Roy with his signature Gale Force Rampage with his Blazing Durandal. That's something absolutely disgusting and can snowball out of control if the enemy doesn't have an answer for Roy. As for SI though, he's really only good for Gale Force. Steady Blow is not that good a skill. And finally, last but not least, we have Ryoma. With his speed and power, he's possibly the best distance counter unit in the game, even though he's still sporting Gen 1 stats. He's terrible as SI material though. Ironically, despite being a lobster, he's made for using, not eating. Next, we have Blue for Fiorm Rerun. This time, she's being cockblocked by Spring Lucina and Bridal Charlotte. Fjorm is a great all-rounder, though her speed does hold her back a little. She has great defenses to take care of the enemy face, and I mean it's not like you can't just buff her speed or give her quick riposta. And her legendary blessing is plus 3 HP and speed, which is always nice. But anyway, I talked about her at length when I analyzed her a while back, including all IVs, so if you want more details you can look at it there. And I'll also link it in my outro at the end of this video. Spring Lucina is whatever. 36 speed is amazing, but doesn't really stand out otherwise. Although I heard that she shows more than pain when she is damaged. Anyway, she is the OG Swift Sparrow user, so she's got that for her skill inheritance. And finally, we have Bridal Charlotte. She's not that remarkable. Tons of HP and a pretty good attack. She has Wind Boost to help with her high HP, but I don't really like that skill. After a hit, she's pretty much done with that. Her defense stats are also kind of below average, so you can't really count on her to take multiple hits. What I do for her is give her a Brave Lance, a Death Blow, Infantry Pulse, or a Panic Plour, and just bank entirely on her strengths. Of course, I'm not gonna use her now that Fjorm's around, and neither should you, unless you like her or something. Blue is still pretty bad this time around, but at least it's not as bad as last time. After that, we have Green. Gunnthrá we've already covered, an oppressive unit on the field that could seriously backfire. Now, Amelia, also known as Blanino, former heavyweight champion, she's still very, very good though. And I mean, if we're just looking at BST comparing to the Christmas units, it's not like 1 or 2 is really gonna make that big a difference. While her great speed will allow her to use her B slots more freely. My only problem with her is that she's a green armor, and even before Christmas units show up, she has to compete with the likes of Hector and Sheena. Both are still very relevant despite all the power creep. Armor March and Slayer's Axe are great SI options though if you don't plan on using her. Finally, for green we have Spring Crom. I use Spring Crom myself. I believe he's best as a specialist and as a counter unit because his stats really isn't all that remarkable. I set him up with Emerald Axe. Green is a great color for the likes of Reinhardt, while Bullbreaker and his okay defense of 28 is good for countering Lyn. I use Distant Counter, but I think Fury is fine too. His HP isn't all that high though, but 43 is decent enough to cover the infantry cast, so I slap him with Infantry Pulse to support people like Selena Miku. Attack and defense plus 2 is okay for healers, and maybe Vanilla Xander as a SI option. So, my opinion, green is okay. 2 out of 3 units is good. Main problem I had with that is I just really hate that sometimes green orbs don't show up. Anyway, at last, we have colorless units. Now, this one's pretty good. First, we have Bridal Lyn. Candlelight is an extremely useful ability for Healers 2.0. Shutting down enemy counter units, counter attacks across a wide area is the stuff of nightmares. I will be gunning for this one personally. She also carries Dazzling Staff, but that's not really that big a deal now. Her stats are okay, sharing the highest speed with Maria, but otherwise not remarkable. If you just want the speed, Maria is a more readily available option. Maria is also extremely terrifying. Then, we have Elise, the strongest healer in the entire game. Besides being mounted on a horse, she has the highest offensive stats out of all the healers and is capable of executing all the healer shenanigans, including Savage Vantage, very well. I highly recommend getting her. If she is to be used as SI though, she gets Live to Serve and Recover Plus, which in my opinion is absolutely the best healing skill for 2.0 healers. And finally, we have the oddball, Anus. I like the idea of an owl bowl, but the problem is that his defense is a little too low to take advantage of it. I suppose you can give him plus dev, but then you're missing out on speed just to give him get him up to a lowly 18. That defense is also going to get him murdered where dragons are involved. And since everyone and their mother has City Mongolian Lyn, who is infinitely superior as a standard bow option, it's better to run her instead. Now, if you don't have Lindo and still want an archer, I think Slayer's bow plus Iceberg or Glacies is a decent option for him. As his brave bow, we can do better, but he can still get the job done as an archer. As SI goes, he gives Fortress Res for ploys, or just defending against magic in general, and Cancel Affinity 3. They're both good SI materials, which makes them at least a little more desired to pull. So Colorless isn't too bad an option for the 8% summoning as well. And one last thing. After the trailer, they pretty much confirmed that legendary heroes are only going to come from banners like this, with wonderful color-sharing pity breakers. And that the next one is coming only 1 month from now. I don't like this. You can clearly see them pushing for more money. Oh yeah, we got more game awards and millions of dollars, and that's not enough. We here in Nintendo, we need to get new yachts for the New Year's. A new yacht attached to a private jet pulled by Rudolph the Red-Nosed Monarch and an Articuno. So we're going to copyright all the in-game music, including that shitty enemy face theme, so we can suck all the money we can get. They've been really chopping away at the goodwill established over the months with the players, so I recommend that we each do our part and tell them how we feel in that survey they put up recently. Hopefully we can at least stem this a little so they don't ruin the game that we all enjoy. Well, that's pretty much it. Let me know what you think. Like or subscribe, or not, whatever. I thank you all for watching. Until next time.